Anna Marie DeMio Dowen, and I am from the Arts in an Orange Outreach Program in Orange, Virginia, and we're going to work on paper cutouts, which are a lot of fun. Come on over here with me. Look at all those colors. Aren't they something? Ooh, they're vibrant. Pastel pale is wonderful, but for this project, we're going to use some really bright colors and work with those and a combination of them. So take a look at this. It's just sketching, playing around with some sketching of trees, silhouettes, basically. And so I did that kind of thing and toyed with it and ended up cutting out in various colors some of these trees. So I'm going to talk about this a second. Let me move this aside. So we have a field you can look at. So when you see it this way, I want you to think about a couple of things. Overlapping is always interesting. How you space it out. Notice lowest, highest, 2, maybe 3 together here, 2 here, and a single one going off page. Helps you look this way and continue the scene, right? So I just cut those out, maybe 2 or 3 pieces, 3 at the very most at a time, stacking them up, the paper, and then just working with it that way, cutting it out, and then laying it out and experimenting to see which ones work well. Darker towards the background, the lighter and lightest in the foreground. So think about that when you're doing it. And so I thought, okay, so we could just frame it all the way around, right? But I liked this plan instead, where I sort of stagger it a little. And I would just lay it out that way so it continues it, not just across, but it does do that. Keeps the eye moving this way, but also more at an angle as well, because there are some angular lines going here, even though you don't realize it. There it is. So how you lay it out and finish it off is important too. So Matisse, Henri Matisse, turn of the century artist, a French painter, and he was a post-impressionism, expressionist, Fauvist, and he also in his later years did these wonderful things called cutouts, and they were whimsical and stylized. So I want you to think about that. I tried to stylize a tree here. We get the idea with the silhouettes, and his weren't really super detailed. They were really wonderful things. Check them out. They're wonderful pieces to look at. So I want you to think about that while we're working with these cutouts. And so let's go on to another one over here. So I've got my paper. The background will be white. The field will be white. But I've got these 3 wonderful, vibrant colors here. So I'm going to cut out a pear shape. I will draw it for you. You can do it freehand any way you wish, but I'm just going to draw it, and I'm going to sketch it a little just so you can see it with this pencil here. So I don't want to be teeny, teeny, tiny. So I'm going to just get that top of that pear shape in there, and then curve it on out. I think pears are just really fun shapes. They're a traditional fruit, really, to use. I'm going to get a stem in here. They're just a really wonderful shape to work with. So I'm getting my scissors, and I've got those 3 colors, very vibrant, and they work well together for me. You might go more for other colors, warm, light, it's up to you. So here we go. I'm going to trim it out with a little care, holding that paper kind of tight so it doesn't slip. Now I'm not going to cut through where the stem is, and if I don't follow my lines perfectly, good, I'll end up with something else. And just give it a little bit of, notice how I'm kind of turning the paper more than turning my scissors. I'm kind of doing both, right? I'm going to get a little fatter right there. I love the little curvy bottom of the pear where the bud is. It's nice. I'll move these over here. So here's my paper. I'm going to do it this way. Got it? So I've got my pears. I don't want to see the pencil mark, so I'm going this way. Here are my pears right here. Now, just like that is kind of interesting, right? Gather and group them, maybe. Right? Interesting already. I'm going to do something a little bit different, though. I'm going to take these 2, maybe stagger them a little. And then I'm going to take this pear, and I'm going to cut it on the diagonal. And I want to make sure when I cut that it's the same way the others are facing rather than in reverse, because then but that's kind of cool too. Ooh, let's play with that a minute. That's kind of nice looking and interesting. Why not? It gives you a different kind of an illusion, right? Let's just play and see what happens with these things. When I turn it the way I had imagined, then I feel I get something that's more like yacht or shipping, boating flags or racing flags. It just changes it up just a little bit. I could take something like the same green paper, cut a little strip, maybe I could use that on that angle too, right? Keep going with that angle I've got. I could be placing something here, give it a table to be on, a line. Or no lines at all. Or maybe set them this way. One low, one high, just to frame it somewhat. You could explore all kinds of things with this, right? So think about any shape. It could be abstract though. Why would it have to stick with this, right? It doesn't. We're going to explore a little bit more along those lines. I'm not going to bother to glue this down right now, but I want you to understand that we're going to use all different components in a different way as we go on. Okay, I'm going to use another example here. And I'm going to talk for a moment about another turn-of-the-century artist, and his name is Moritz Escher. And Escher is so well known for his lithographs, his printmaking, and drawing. He's just a terrific graphic artist and very well collected. I covered my dorm wall with his posters. It just was really pretty wonderful to have. And he's mathematical too. So when I started to do this project, it just lent itself to Escher. And so I took this wonderful piece over here. And there's other things you could do. You could trace these out or cut strips. And it's a wonderful little piece made by the FFA, Orange County High School. Great group of people led by great guy, a couple of guys, and really terrific. They made these for outreach, which was great. So we've used them in 1,000 ways, painting them, using them this way. But this makes me think about mathematical, like tessellations, sort of, not quite obviously, because they're supposed to work, but you could, kind of fit neatly together. But you can play with these things in different ways. What do you want to do? We could be very orderly, right? We can stagger things, move them upward. What do we want to do with it? We could do things, let's just try it again. I want to encourage you to explore and not necessarily paste things down either. You could have a file of things you just explore with. And you just play and think, well, let's try something like that. What will happen when I do those things? What do I get now? What do I get if I just start to kind of build them and try and change them from a bird shape? Start to just put them down. What would happen? A little mark on there. Get off. Just try and see. Let's throw a different color in there. What am I getting? I like this. Well, let's try this because that's too pink. Too close to. What do we get? Sort of a pinwheel type thing? A flower? But what would happen really if we just moved it? Suddenly we get almost a sculptural feel, right? Any way you move these becomes pleasing in different ways for different reasons. So I want you to explore that too when you're working. Find something, of course you can paste it down. If you like it, keep it. But think about the field color. This is black, so you can see it really well. But what other colors would work with your pieces and your other colors you got together? So these are some things, and these artists were so influential. And when I was doing this, working with these, it really led me to something else. And we're going to go back to something that might be almost forgettable, but not quite, because I became fascinated with this. And it was the scraps, the cutouts that I had. I cut the shape out, and then it was like, kind of moved them aside. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. What if you start just building? Not gluing yet. What will happen if maybe I'll make that a little wonkier, right? And just get that green on top of another type of yellow chartreuse and move forward. I'm going to get something else happening here. Maybe if I tighten it up a little more, maybe move this up a little more. What do I have? I have something I think that is really interesting, making the eye go up, come back down. It's recognizable, and yet it's abstracted. So I want you to think about how these scraps that we normally take, put in a drawer, or throw out. Heavens to Betsy, no. I save every single thing, and it's come in to lead me into other explorations, which I so appreciate, and I hope you do too. So we're going to go back to those other scraps that we have too. Hold on. So here's these pears. Here's some pear scraps, just overlapped, and then glue these down. I like how this comes over unexpectedly, but I like the tilting. So we have this field, this one, and they create something externally interesting and internally. This comes out at you, but you get led in to this one. Little portal. I like it a lot. And those kinds of things just caught my eye when I was putting the scraps aside. They just become almost, frankly, more interesting in some ways than the tighter, more controlled pieces. So just keep that in mind. Here's another one to work with, because I'm always experimenting. So a couple black pieces behind other forms of the pear and odd little things I was cutting out. Same thing. I like that twisting and turning of things. Play with these things. These haven't been glued down. These are things that I constantly move around and just get a good feel for. Another plane of a color, reiterating the rectangular shape, and then these other more flowy ones, right? And lastly, I want to talk to you about this. So we've got this black field here. This one right here was a piece, let you see it a little better, a piece that was cut up by a student, Damien. I asked him if I could keep it and use it because I thought it was so awesome. It was going in the scrap pile, saving everything. But take a look at the figure of a man. I just thought it was so interesting. And then when you start to stack, oh, look, there's the pear. What do you know? And no one will even know it's a pear under there, right? Or these odd shapes. But what will happen when we take that figure and put it over there? Ooh, kind of like that. Maybe if I tilt it a little, see what I get. Get this figure of a man that's got some dimension to him. Let's try and tilt it even more. Let's play. Let's start it all over. Let's get that blue field here. Kind of stack these up a little. See what happens when we throw red in there. And I like the combination already. I think these were supposed to be fox heads, so it's so fun. And then we go right here. Get just a little touch of blue. And maybe we don't want to see that pear part, right? So we throw some other pieces in there. Just throw other things to disguise what we've got going there. So we don't have so many weird things going on that no one can recognize, but we know, right? So think about what your layouts might be like, how you can create, how you can build with these incredible, wonderful scraps. So here we go. These are fun. And some people think, well, they're not really art. Well, what if you have maybe a disability of some sort, or maybe you've never been able to take scissors and cut, right? That's what's happened to people, and has happened and is happening. So does that mean you can't be an artist? Absolutely not. I have worked with people who have also been in situations where no scissors were allowed in the facilities they were at, none whatsoever. But we could pre-cut these things out for them and they could do designing of their own, or working with someone who has this inability to use things but can tell me or whatever outreach teacher it was, how can they build their work? What colors do you want? What shapes do you want? Where do you want them? How do you want them put and arranged? And it was such a freeing type of thing for people to do. And you know, you may be grounded by earthly and bound by earthly things, but you know, you can be free in your imagination, and then therefore in your heart and soul, because that's what art is for me in so many ways. It's a language and it's a vehicle. So never forget that. So here we're working with these things, and I'm going to show you a couple of the things that we've got that were leftovers from doing these die cut punch outs. Please excuse my messiness, but here it is. Okay, recognize that right there, right? So here's this, and being somewhat frugal, using these things, you know, and don't just always think of pine trees as holiday time. You know, pine trees are here 365 days a year. They're beautiful trees. They're, of course, the night. This one was a little more formally planned. I don't know if you can see that. A little more formally planned here, right? Moonlit night, starry night. And the trees lined up. Let me get these two so you can see them better. Die cuts are moving aside, moving those papers aside. So what about this one? Right? Here it is. So we've got lots of different things. So we're going to build with these leftover scraps that always went in the scrap pile, except this one. That was planned. Because once I saw these, we started working in classes with planned layouts. But these were also things that caught my eye. Like, what? How beautiful is it to just pile these things up and be left with some sort of a design? So let's try that. Got this here. You can always put a field of color behind, right? Let's see what happens there. Let's try this one. And let's try and create something else with these. How interesting is that already? Really pretty designs. Let's go here. I'm always thinking of the color, maybe sharing points, maybe this way. Overlap. More. I think that could be moved down on the field a little more, and that up. So it creates that movement of going up and then over and up. I want you to play around with those ideas. Never throw your scraps out, I guess is what I'm saying. Keep these. This is your toolbox. Let's see what happens when we do this. Let's work with these a little. Let's try this. Try that. What can we do here? More orderly, right? This one's got a really big, let's try this kind of almost snowflakey. Pretend that's not there. Some ideas, right? Just white on blue. Pretty. Might want to even those things up if you're that kind of gal. What about this? Let's just see what happens here. We just put that behind it. Off a little. Just pretty. Don't you think? Simple, pretty, almost card making, right? You could be making cards and things that you got the help of those already created die cuts, but what else you've got? Your imagination. Okay, so I want you to think about this. And I keep saying one last thing because there's so many things to see and do, and it's so much fun. So I'm going to try this situation too. Let's go with black paper this time, although the blue is really nice. What if we just double it up like that? Let's see what happens. So I've got strips of paper, all different kinds of strips of paper that were just cut off when I was sizing paper, saving everything. So what happens when you do these things? What do you think of like postmodernism? And you can just do something simple like that. There it is. There's my piece. I'm done. But you might want to add other colors. Going off, overlapping, going different directions. Why not? I love just playing with these things. They lead me places. They surprise me. They take over. I kind of like how that just fell that way. Yeah, maybe a little more orderly. Maybe not. Soften some of those edges if you get something on there. Let's see what's here. Ooh, here's a pretty kind of blue. I like that. These blues that just sort of show up. So we end up building more and more and more with other colors. Let me share that. I like that. What else would you do? Would you take other things? Let's see what happens if you take a couple of weird shaped things. These seem more Matisse-like to me. Kind of little organic shapes. Maybe they make you think of greenery in the garden. Kind of like that. There's so much more movement when you put that in there, right? So think about these things as you employ and play and create. The possibilities and beauty are endless. Have a good time. Share it with us. Bye.